Well, the Dolphins suffered their third defeat of the season. We're going to break it all down in a little Overreaction Monday. But first, I got to give a huge thank you, shout out to everybody that is subscribed. We reached the 50K milestone, and that means more Dolphins content each and every day. So if you haven't yet subscribed, Dolphins Today is your one-stop shop for everything around the aqua and orange. And shout out to the realists that have helped us reach this milestone. Let's get to 51K. Let's do it now. Well, the international trip is in the books, and unfortunately, a sour taste left in the Dolphins fans' mouths. And of course, all the Miami Dolphins supporters, 21-14, the final in yesterday's Week 9 game against the Kansas City Chiefs. It was really a tale of two halves. Kansas City jumped out to that 21-0 lead before Miami rattled off 14 unanswered, but in the end, they just could not make the plays. Really had that final drive, the ball moving well into Chiefs territory, but 3 straight incompletions, and then we know what happened on 4th and 10. Was it a bad snap? I'm not going to pick size, but not great. You got to make the catch there. But let's break it all down. What's it mean? It's another loss against a team with a winning record. So Overreaction Monday, you know what that means. This team can't beat any good teams. You go on the internet, you go on Twitter, on any message boards, that's the only narrative you see around the Miami Dolphins. And there it is. They're 0-3 against teams with a winning record and 6-0 against teams with a losing record. So it's that simple. The Miami Dolphins can't beat good teams. Everybody's saying it. I'm saying it. You're saying it. And Mike McDaniel even acknowledged it. More on that in a moment. But I'm going to ask you right away, and you got to be honest with me, what is your concern level with the Dolphins and their inability to beat a good team? Are you really concerned? Out of 10, like, hey, 9 games into this thing, and it's really clear. We beat bad teams and lose to good teams. Or saying, let's relax a little bit. We enter the bye week. We're going to have a lot more opportunities to prove it. We've got some good teams coming up. Maybe your concern is closer to a 1, 2, or 3. Let me know in the comments. I got to be honest with you, and I always am. My concern level is growing a little bit because 9 games into this thing, halfway point, entering the bye week, and it's starting to get pretty clear. This team beats up on bad teams, and they can't beat the good teams. And so, of course, there will be opportunities to prove otherwise and to rewrite that narrative. But all those taking that national narrative, I think they make, obviously, a good point. So, with that said, I want to focus on the remaining schedule because plenty of opportunities on that remaining schedule to rewrite or change that narrative. Because you look at the Jets, you got them twice in division opponent. They've got a really good defense. Obviously, that game against the Cowboys jumps out later on in Week 16. And the way you close it out, Baltimore looks really, really good. Another huge win for them on Sunday. And then, of course, an in-division opponent against the Bills. So the front portion of that remaining schedule, a little bit softer, especially when you consider the Dolphins take on the Raiders after the bye week. But that back half of the remaining schedule is loaded. So there will be opportunities to change that narrative. But right now, I think that narrative exists for a good reason. This team is unable to beat the good teams at this moment in time. But here we are, early November. Hopefully, we'll be changing our opinions as the season progresses. Now, second overreaction I want to touch on. Saw this all over Twitter, all over the internet. The tape is out on how to stop this offense. And that starts with Tua. More examples of ways to put pressure on the Miami Dolphins and ways to slow them down. Tua struggled a little bit with the pressure on Sunday against the Chiefs. And really in the games that the Dolphins have been unable to win, Tua has really struggled. Take a look at the splits here between the wins and the losses. The wins, playing at an MVP level and has been as good as it gets. Look at that, 16 touchdowns compared to 5 interceptions versus the losses. The turnovers haven't really been the issue, but as a whole, the offense just hasn't gotten going in now 2 of the last 3 weeks. Of course, the game against the Eagles left some concerns to be discussed, and the game against the Chiefs, only 14 points. That's the lowest output of the season. So yes, there are causes for concern with this offense because when they face good defenses, they have struggled. So where are you at on it? Can this offense be successful against good teams? It's real simple. Let me know in the comments. Type Y for yes or N for no. Again, I'm going to stick to the same mindset. There are plenty of opportunities for this Dolphins team to prove otherwise. But right now, nine games in, that is the takeaway on this Dolphins team. Here's who you got left. We talked about it with the Raiders as a way to bounce back. But then it's tough. Jets have a great defense. Another game, the Commanders are playing better football. Titans, you think that's a winnable game on paper. But that closing stretch, wow. It's time to gear up. It's time to not talk about it, but rather be about it for the Miami Dolphins. And we'll see if this offense, led by Tua, can, in fact, turn the tide and start getting this thing moving back in the right direction, closer to what we saw from the Dolphins earlier in the season. And I'm not asking for 70 points a game, but obviously the statistics are starting to level out. Water's starting to find its level, and teams are finding ways to slow down this Dolphins offense, and the tape is, in fact, out there. So, yes, it might be a little bit of an overreaction, but hopefully the Dolphins can prove otherwise. Coming up, we've got a couple more overreactions for you and some injury updates. But first, I got to tell you about Game Time because they are a proud supporting sponsor of today's episode. I tell you about Game Time all the time, and I love it because it rewards procrastinators like myself. That's right, Game Time is the best app, the best ticket app for last-minute ticket deals with the lowest price guarantee, which I love because every now and then, that the weekend rolls around, you call up your buddies, hey, let's head down to the stadium, and Game Time is the best app for that. You can get the best deals, lowest prices on games the day of events. So Hard Rock Stadium, that's the place to be after the bye week. You got to use Game Time to get your tickets there. And it's great, not just for football tickets. The NBA season has started, and heck, great for concerts as well. App is super easy to use as well. So just a couple of clicks, and you've got yourself tickets with the lowest price guarantee, even last-minute tickets, which I love. And, oh, yeah, they'll give you a nice high-definition picture of where you're seated and where your seats are. So Game Time, that's the ticket you want. That's the ticket to use. So take the stress out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app today. Create an account. Use that code FINSCHAT, PHINSCHAT, for $20 off your first purchase. And again, terms do apply, but when you create that account and redeem the code using FINSCHAT for $20 off, Game Time is the app. Game Time is the app for you with last-minute tickets and the lowest price guaranteed. Now, we've had a couple of negative reactions. How about some positivity, right? This defense is coming together, and I think yesterday was more proof to exactly that. It was far and away the best game played by the defense. Look at the numbers there. 14 points allowed, 0 in the second half. Of course, we're using 14 because one of the touchdowns by Kansas City was a defensive touchdown, so 2 offensive touchdowns, and one of them was on the opening drive of the game. So you throw that out the window, and this Dolphins defense was, I don't want to use the word dominant, but certainly performing at a championship caliber level. So they are now 11th in total defense on the season, which is drastically improved to where they were towards the beginning of the season, more in that 20 to 30 range. They've also now held 4 of their last 5 opponents to 21 points or less. So when you think about what this offense is capable of doing, combined, that's very complimentary football, right? Obviously, the offense didn't do it yesterday, but in theory, this offense plays up to their capability, this defense plays up to their capability, and this team can start to make some positive strides in the right direction. And they've been getting pressure on the quarterback. That's a huge component of all this. They're tied for 4th in the NFL with 29 sacks, and you got to turn to the production of one of the unquestioned leaders of this defense, Bradley Chubb. He came over last year in that blockbuster deal and had a little bit slower of a start to the season than many, myself included, would have liked. But now you have to acknowledge the production of Bradley Chubb, especially in the last 4 games. The numbers on the screen there, The 4 forced fumbles, he had another one of them Sunday against Patrick Mahomes, are tied for the most in the NFL. So not only is he getting that production, but he's making those game-changing plays, those impactful plays that can go from taking a defense to really good to being great and game-impacting and turning the tide of an entire game. And I think you saw that a little bit yesterday with that sack fumble he had that was recovered by Zach Sealer. That got the Dolphins back into this game. Also, with Bradley Chubb being an unquestioned leader of this team, I like what he had to say after the game and talking about where this team's at. He said, it's frustrating for sure. We want to win these big games. We play with heart. We give everything against a championship caliber team. We have to find a way to win these games. So it'd be very easy for Bradley Chubb to say, oh, I played great and here's what we got to do. No, he's taking accountability and trying to get this team ready to win big games. I think that speaks to the leadership abilities that he has on the defensive end. And just more to reiterate how good that defense was from Joe Shad. Dolphins defense held the Chiefs offense to a total yards and passing yard numbers that were their fewest, not just in this season, but about in 2 calendar years. So obviously the Chiefs are a prolific offense. They've been down a little bit this year, but I think the way that defense made a statement in the second half in particular shows what this defense is capable of. And a little bit more positivity is from Ryan Smith of Pro Football Focus. The Dolphins defense is a completely different unit with Ramsey in the lineup and Phillips back healthy. Of course, talking about Jalen Phillips. He also made an impact from his edge rusher position with Bradley Chubb. Smith went on to say this team desperately needed a bye, and it's coming at the perfect time. Today's loss doesn't change the fact that they are, that's right, let me make sure we see that little word down there, an SB contender. So I'm not quite ready to say Super Bowl contender, but with what this defense is capable of and with what the offense is capable of, I think you start to have the conversation of what is this Dolphins team identity? What is the strength of this Dolphins team? Let me know in the comments. Type O for offense or D for defense. Again, lots of things to overreact to here on Overreaction Monday, but I think it can all be summed up in what I kept seeing on the internet, on Good Morning Football, all over Twitter, you name it, that F word. And I'm not going to say it because this is a family show, right? I'm not going to say the F word, but a lot of people are saying the Dolphins are frauds. That's the F word I'm talking about. This from Kyle Brandt. Well, DolphinsTalk.com put it on Twitter, but Kyle Brandt of Good Morning Football says Miami, quote, aren't serious people. He calls them the Cowboys of the AFC. You have to check that rant out for yourself. But again, this was all over the internet. I love Pardon My Take. Who doesn't? Those guys are always having a good time. But they asked the question, are the Dolphins frauds? So again, that word frauds, Dolphins frauds, that was trending on Twitter yesterday. So anytime you got a trending topic, you know it's certainly the national narrative around this Dolphins team. And you know what? Mike McDaniel, he addressed it post-game because he was asked. He was asked about that national narrative around the Dolphins. And this is a pretty lengthy quote, so bear with me here, but we're going to work our way through it because I think it's important for context. He said something that I think we're all very aware of, and we knew going into the game that if we were going to lose, what the narrative would be, referring to, of course, that the Dolphins can't beat good teams. He said, and that's fair. We shouldn't feel entitled to high opinions from the masses. We have to earn that confidence. McDaniel went on to say, we have a team to earn everything. It also gives me a ton of confidence because I know that NFL games, each and every one of them, is tough. I think people undervalue poor records. It is hard to win in this league. To win in any right against any opponent is something not to take for granted. So in reference to good teams or bad teams. And he summed it up, and I think this really encapsulates what Mike McDaniel meant. He said, as long as you continue to get better, ultimately that narrative will subside. But that's only us collectively from coaches and players alike. If you want the narrative to change, I love this. I'm going to say it one more time. Mike McDaniel said, if you want the narrative to change, change the narrative. So I think that becomes the Dolphins' message into the bye week. What Mike McDaniel wrapped up his post-game presser with, if you want the narrative to change, change the narrative. I don't want to sound like a broken record repeating myself, but it's worth noting, if you want the narrative to change, change the narrative. So, that said, are the Dolphins really frauds? You got to let me know in the comments. Is this team a real one? Are they real contenders or are they frauds? Type C for contenders or F for frauds. Want to wrap up today with an update on Robert Jones and the latest injury news for the left guard. Robert Jones has come in to fill in for the injured Isaiah Wynn, who is on IR, I should say. And Robert Jones played pretty well against New England and had to leave Sunday's game against the Kansas City Chiefs, but no update on his status moving forward. However, his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, did confirm that he hyperextended his left knee in that game against the Chiefs on Sunday and that he will undergo an MRI. Once that MRI is out, I think we'll know a little bit more about Robert Jones and where he's at with everything. But again, this is starting to become that rotating merry-go-round of Dolphins offensive linemen that are injured, that come back. They got a little bit healthier with the return of Teron Armstead. It was great to see him back in the lineup. As I mentioned, Isaiah Wynn on IR. That's why Robert Jones is playing on that left side. Rob Hunt also has been battling with some injuries. So Lester Cotton and Robert Jones are the two filling in at the guard position. And Connor Williams, good to see him back in the lineup because he played at the center position. So that said, Robert Jones did start the season on IR with that injured knee, but it's not the same knee that he injured against the Chiefs on Sunday. So after that MRI is out, I think we'll have a better understanding of where he's at and what his status is moving forward. Want to give a sincere thank you and shout out to all of our Aqua Club members. You help support the show here at Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. We couldn't do it without you. And so I got to always name my Aqua Club members because we appreciate their support so much. Chad Jones, Lord Buddy Bear, David Breakout, Mystical, Robert Fritz, and the list keeps going, which is a testament to every supporter of Dolphins Today. Gerald Stokes, Jason Nugel, Nicholas Dixon, Brian Aycock, Dana Respress, and the newest member, Gary Hall, as well as Dana Respress. So shout out to you guys. We appreciate your support in making sure Dolphins Today continues to grow here at Chat Sports. So into the bye week, lots more to come this week, perhaps some bye week changes, and we'll always have our live show for you. So you want to make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a minute of any of the wall-to-wall Dolphins content with live Dolphins videos, daily Dolphins videos, as well as live watch parties. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time on Dolphins Today.